ఒకసారి ఈ సెషన్ స్టార్ట్ అవ్వగానే మీరు డిస్ట్రిబ్యూట్ చేసేది పిల్లలకి మాత్రమే ఇవ్వండి. Welcome back. There is a short delay. We'll start our technical session now. As per the schedule, the next keynote address is by Ms. Abha Narayan Lamba, a conservation architect and a historic building consultant. But we have received a message from her yesterday, wherein she expressed her sincere apologies for not being able to attend this conference physically. But we have arranged an online address by her at 4 o'clock. Yeah. And similarly, Dr. Asif Majid also would be joining us little later online. So moving ahead, now we'll have our next lecture by Mr. Binil Mohan and Ms. Ariba Khanam. Before inviting, first I'll invite them onto the dais. Please, ma'am. Mr. Binil Mohan. Ms. Ariba Khanam. Mr. Jithendra Babu, sir. Yeah. I'll do. So last one. I request our research scholar, Ms. Tainiyat Begum, to welcome the guests with a bouquet. Zakir, look at that. Mr. Binil Mohan, thank you for coming. I request our another research scholar, Ms. Sana Sheikh, to give a bouquet to Ariba Khanam. I once again request Tainiyat Begum to welcome Mr. Jithendra Babu with a bouquet. Yeah, correct. Before inviting Mr. Binil Mohan and Ariba Khanam onto for their lecture, I would like to give a brief introduction about them. Mr. Binil Mohan is a design professional whose work bridges the realms of design, crafts, and education. With over a decade of experience in India's craft sector, he has made significant contributions both as an educator and as a consultant. He had received various fellowships and had served on boards of Kalhat, an award-winning crafts education institute. He taught at the Indian Institute of Crafts and Design for a decade and is currently affiliated with J.K. Lakshmipat University. And Ms. Ariba Khanam is the founder of Gul Khana, an independent textile design studio rooted in the rich traditions of India and based in Old Delhi. With a deep commitment to the preservation and revival of Indian crafts, she has collaborated on projects with renowned organizations such as Fab India and the National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad. Ariba's work reflects her passion for exploring the visual language of Indian crafts. She is an alumna of Jamia Millia Islamia and the Indian Institute of Crafts and Design. Both together are going to talk about Cosmopolitan Deccan, a visual journey through Khanam. Welcome.
If you want, I can change the slides from there. Yeah. So, just sit here.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are standing between you and lunch, and we would try to make it worthwhile. First of all, the presentation is visual, so if lights.
Lights switch off. Yes.
This wonderful opportunity, and congrats to the organizing committee and Professor Faruqi for putting together this conference on a very, very important aspect of the Deccan history. Right? Congrats. And me, Binil and Ariba, we primarily work in the area of textile design. And our area of work is primarily in the field. We spend most of our time in craft clusters working along with artisans, less in the academia circles. And our understanding of Kalamkari and our area which we are inquiring into Kalamkari is from a semiotic lens. Now, we are looking at the visual language of Kalamkari, inquiring into the possibility of can we get some insights into the Cosmopolitan Deccan through Kalamkari artifacts, looking at the visual language of Kalamkari. So we designers, we interpret our world through visual media. So our lens is semiotic, and so that's the same approach which we have taken here, right? We are looking at Kalamkari primarily from understanding their motif language and see is there an underlying element of cosmopolitanism through the evolution of Kalamkari in the Deccan. Ariba will briefly introduce you to Kalamkari techniques and processes, right? So, but as you all know, Deccan was a very rich province, right? You had, Golconda was one of the major source of diamonds for the world, right? And you had iron ore for weapons manufacturing. But two skills of Deccan which was sought after across the world was Kalamkari and Bithri, right? And so much so that Britain actually imposed ban on Kalamkari twice, right? And once for import, and the second time for actual use of Kalamkari. They used to call it chins, right? Portuguese, used to call Kalamkari pintado. Dutch used to call it seats. British used to call it chins, right? And there was actual ban on the usage of chins, and chins became a prized smuggled good in UK, and because it upsetted the local economy. So that is the kind of demand this skill and this craft had across the world. And once the roller printing machine and mechanized printing started happening, that's when the initiation of decline of Kalamkari or chins happened, and with the royal patronage also going away, right? So it is said that by the end of 1930s, 40s, the craft was almost extinct, and the All India Handicrafts Board, under the leadership of Kamaladevi Chattopadhyay, initiated a lot of effort to revive this craft, right? And started a workshop near Panagal, on the outskirts of Srikalahasti, and in Machilipatnam, and that's how the craft was revived. And also, unfortunately, the All India Handicrafts Board is now dissolved by the government some years back. But that's the legacy of AIHB. If you look at this quote aptly sums up the cosmopolitan nature of Kalamkari, and also the cosmopolitan understanding of Kalamkari artisans, right? How do they interact with different cultures, which was very different from their native culture, but how they imbued and interpreted them in their piece of work, right? And this is what we want to see in the presentation. This Coromandel Coast was one of the major production hub for Kalamkari, and the multiple centers, but two major centers were Srikalahasti and Machilipatnam. Srikalahasti is a temple town on the bank of river Swarnamukhi, and Machilipatnam is a trading port. So we don't know whether the Kalamkari used to get manufactured in Machilipatnam. It might have got manufactured in the vicinity of Machilipatnam, and the trade must have happened at Machilipatnam. But largely, if you look at the records, it says produced in Machilipatnam. Right? Might not be true. Yeah. This slide illustrates the technique of Kalamkari, right? And Ariba will quickly skim through the process. And with every other craft in India, the actual process in practice vary with regions, right? So, but this is the overview of the process of Kalamkari. It's a laborious process, right? It has multiple steps, and you also see that you need an ecosystem for Kalamkari to flourish, right? And like any other craft, right? It's not only the printer, not only the dyer, not only the washer. So there's an ecosystem of actors which sustain any craft, right? And if one of these actors get threatened, the whole craft could collapse, right? And which has happened in many cases, right? I would request Ariba to skim through the process of kalamkari, the technique and the process of kalamkari. Ariba is slightly unwell, but thanks for doing this.
I don't have to say that. Hello, everyone. It's really good to see everybody here so interested in our presentation. So before going into the visuals, I would like to quickly, this is not like the whole process of kalamkari, but we're just skimming through it because it's a really long process and probably the entire session would have gone into it had we explained the whole thing. So the first picture that you see there is a fabric which has been dipped in buffalo milk and myrobaran. So basically, what happens is that to keep the dyes from seeping, the fabric is first sort of dipped into buffalo milk so that the pores sort of close up and the dyes, any kind of dyes that we put on them, it does not seep.
The fat content in the buffalo.
Yeah, the fat content in the buffalo milk. After the fabric is prepared, it is then it's time to sort of draw out the motif or the drawing that you have in mind, and that's the first step, as you can see. And it's usually done with a kalam. Traditionally, it was done with the kalam. Now, a lot of people use block prints to make the first drawings or stencils even. Could you please recall for the second step? Can you please?
Yeah. So once the initial print is drawn, right? So then, so now based on the color which you want, you make an outline using the color, right? So if you want a red color, so you make an outline using alum, right? And if you want a black color, you use it using iron, right? So the interesting local material which gives color to kalamkari is the chai root. It's basically, if you dip it, the outlined cloth into the the chai root solution, the fabric absorbs the red, right? And so alum actually reacts with chai and it turns into red, right? So wherever you want red, you could paint it with alum, put it in chai root and get it out, you get the red color, right? And if you want to do other colors, for example, here there is indigo, right? What you do is you resist that part where you don't want the color through beeswax, right? This is what we call as resist dyeing, which is quite common in crafts, right? And in block printing in Jaipur, there is a Babu printing. They use mud as a resist, right? A combination of mud and tar. Here we have heard that beeswax is used, and so there might be variations of resist material which people might be using, but the principle here is that you resist the fabric and then you put it in the dye solution, and so you get different colors, and some colors are again painted onto the design, right? So basically you prepare the fabric, right? Draw the outline, right? Put in the chai root, right? And get the colors, right? Do a resist, and if you want to get different colors, do the resist painting, right? And then you paint it, right? And also a lot of other colors, colors you could get by painting colors over certain other colors, right? So basically, if you paint, say blue, yellow over blue, you would get a certain different color. So that kind of manipulations happen. So this is the final, the kalamkari design which has come out of the process. So primarily, what we are going to do is we are trying to look at kalamkari on the basis of the iconography, right? So the visual motif of kalamkari, right? So these are two kalamkari pieces, primarily in the traditional Srikalahasti. If you look at the Srikalahasti traditional form, so the motif language is centered around temple, depiction of Hindu mythology, epics. So the left one is from Shikalahasti, it is a depiction of Mahabharata, and the right one is from Chirala, which is a depiction of Ramayana. So on the other hand, if you look at, these are three Janamazes, Kalamkari Janamazes, which are prayer mats. Right? So you could see the influence of the Deccan court, their religious, cultural partnership or relationship with Persia. Right? All the Janamazes as the mihrabs. Right? The archway of the mosque is depicted there, and there's also an inscription in Arabic. So we are not able to zoom in, but you could say on the top of the mihrab, on the left Janamaz, there is an inscription in Arabic. So both of them are faith-based objects, right? So one is, Kalamkari, the traditional Shikalahasti. Their iconography is very Hindu, and this is an influence largely of the Deccan court and their strong relationship with Persian counterparts. This is a Dastarkhan, which is basically a floor spread, which is believed to have originated in the palace of Iran. So Dastarkhan is a floor spread around which people gather together to eat, right? And in various cultures in UP, in Delhi, people, Dastarkhan is a part of the food culture. Right? So you could see very clear Persian visual language in this Dastarkhan, right? And right, the floral motifs and the Isfahani carpet motifs. The visual language is very Persian. You could clearly see the influence of Persian, motif language in this product. And you could also see calligraphy, which is basically a prayer to the Almighty for the blessing of people who gather around Dastarkhan to have their meal. So our interest in Kalamkari is sparked by a potential project which we are where we are working with artisans of Machilipatnam. So that's how our interest in Kalamkari got sparked. And what we realized is a certain vital aspect of Kalamkari cosmopolitan heritage has been faded into obscurity. And so we'll probably, if there is enough time, we would talk about the project at the end of the session. So that's our connection to Kalamkari. This is a 17th century figurative Kalamkari, which is a depiction of Deccan court, and it also reflects the cosmopolitan character of the Deccan court. So these are court scenes. So you could see a man, I don't know whether it's clearly visible, but in the Ottoman costume, he is feeding his bird and talking to another Chinese man. So they might be, they are in the garden. On the left, extreme left, you could see a man and a woman in Central Asian costumes holding a Chinese vase. So one could get a glimpse of the connection or material connection to the Silk Route, right? So here you could see a yogi, basically sitting, and he's holding pineapple, right? And pineapple has just come to the Deccan. Pineapple has been introduced to the Deccan by the Portuguese, so you can infer that Portuguese must have been here, when this, their arrival, this post their arrival, right? But interestingly, you could see the Kalamkari artist is very, very culturally, very much, plugged into the cosmopolitan, give and take within the Deccan culture, right? And this is what we call as kanat. Kanat is basically tent cloth, right? And when you have military expeditions, you need encampments, right? So, and a camp is like a portable city, right? And in every camp there are tents, right? These tents are basically areas for workshops, kitchen, audience hall, royal spaces, right? And the royal tents used to have very exquisite kannats or tent clothes, right, covering clothes. So this is post-Mughal interaction. So you could see this is a melting pot of Mughal and Deccani, visual language. But the most interesting part is this mythical bird, right? It's called Gandaberunda. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correct, but it's called Gandaberunda. It's basically a heraldic mythical creature which was revered by the earlier kingdoms of Deccan, including the Kakatiyas, right? And if you see it closely, you could see that the stylized feathers of the creature, and you could also see in the clenched jaws, the fabric has been torn off, but it's clenched two elephants, right? So the fabric has been torn off, but if you see it closely, there are two elephants in the mouth of this creature. Yeah. So these are so you can see, these are two elephants. These are the stylized feathers, right? And the bird is actually swooping in. And so this is basically the tiger is hunting a deer. This is also where you could see birds preying on butterflies. So it's a hunting. It's an apt visual theme for a hunting military tent, right? So you would see the Gandaberunda hunting elephants, the tigers hunting the deers, and the birds preying on the butterflies. This is again an interesting piece of Kalamkari textile, primarily because of if you look at the inscriptions, right, it's written something resembling the Shahada, right, and you also have a half poetry by a couplet of half couplet of a poetry by a Safavid poet here. But if you go to the top of the same fabric, you could see a very Hindu iconography, which is potentially a sun god, right? So what was the interplay, and how did the artisan interpreted this interplay? Could be that could be very interesting. This is another Kalamkari panel, and you could see the upper panel is largely Persian, and you could see the figures are Persian and Deccani, and on the lower part you could see purely European figures. So suppose this, the figures are largely Western, chins-based figures, and Ariba would take over.
Yeah, just go there. So let's see it explain. But you pointed with this.
Yeah.
So here we're seeing a very intricately done piece of Kalamkari, which looks like it's been influenced. It has Chinese influence. The branches, as you can see, are very angular, and the borders have bamboo leaf-like leaves. Put the mic. Yes. So the border basically is inspired by bamboo leaves, and an overall aesthetic of the fabric is very Chinese. This is also a very interesting piece. You can see that there is the center motif is basically a Chinese motif inspired by Chinese paintings, and Rest all of the other motifs here are very European shades, but the sector is very Chinese. There are also a few bamboo, uh, bamboo
Shoots,
motifs
yeah.
that you can see. So it's like a mixture of Chinese and Western influences on color palette. This is another example of the Chinese influenced kalamkari. Here you can see there's a scene going on in the center, and then there are Mughal Buddhas or Mughal florals. So it's and the vases are they're inspired by Chinese ceramics. This is a Japanese influenced kalamkari. Um, so basically, this style of waves that you see here and the birds are very Japanese painting inspired, and yeah, and but the florals on the borders are not that Japanese, they're probably a little or a little bit Indian. This is a very interesting piece. We have a central motif um, which is a motif for that was used by the Dutch. Uh, it was a Dutch officer, and then there are Japanese birds that are surrounding it, and then there are European ships all over the field. So this is also again a Japanese influenced piece of kalamkari. It's called the salsa in it's a 17th century piece, and you can see like a lot of mythological creatures. It was made for the Japanese market. Very interesting, very different. Uh, yeah, this piece is very high inspired piece. There is flames like borders. You go back. The whole lattice is very flame-like aesthetics, which is very high. Nice.
Now, this is basically Thai interpretation of Brahma, right?
Yeah, yeah. And this second motive is Thai, basically Thai style of Brahma.
What period would this be?
This is 18th century.
Sorry, these pieces, are they from a private collection or
V&A.
V&A and Met museums.
V&A and Met. So these pieces are still there.
So it's-
Collection of Met and V&A.
Yeah, it's on public access.
okay,
Yeah.
but it's not at Machilipatnam or
No,
anything?
no.
Nothing.
A few pieces are there in National Museum in Delhi. Not many. Mostly are preserved by V&A. Most of the pieces.
So these are basically they produce these.
They're all produced in Coromandel Coast. All of these.
The provenance is from Coromandel, and these are basically the collections which had been exported in the 17th, 18th centuries.
So you can see in this piece of fabric as well, the field is very European, but the border is very Thai. So there is like flame-like motifs in the border, and that is an amalgamation of European shades and Thai border.
And they were manufactured for those markets.
Yes, they were manufactured for those markets, and sometimes so that's that interplay. Sometimes how did that happen? Sometimes did the designs travel here, or was it how did that communication happen, and how did the kalamkari artisans interpreted it, right? And so, and especially if you look at that piece where there is the shahada and there is a sun god on top of it, right? So that's how do artisans negotiated this cross-cultural interaction?
This is again a very Thai inspired piece from the Thai market where you have all these skin like borders, and there are, but the motive in the center is very European. It's not high.
Yeah. So you have European figures inside that thigh arch.
This is a very beautiful piece, and it was done. For it's a royal steward. The royal stewards suggested the reign of Charles I,
Yeah.
Charles II. So there is this center motive, and then around it is very Chinese and Indian. The animals that you see are very Indian from folklore, from Indian folk paintings. The florals are very Chinese. Also, very interesting, there is a motive of a pineapple. It was the time when pineapple was introduced to England, and so it has been inspired by that. This piece has a really prominent French influence, and the border which you're seeing is part of a pattern inspired by Jean Pierre, who was a French designer. So the border and central motif is very French, but the field motifs are very good. So it's a combination of French and Mughal kind of color pattern. So this piece is more faith-based. In the center, you see there is a mother elephant sort of pecking her own breast to feed its children, and it symbolizes through Christ, and Christ basically feeding his apostles. These are handkerchiefs and napkins that are very French. There are emblems in the center. Sometimes there are French sable, small scenic drawings in the center. At times it's just floral. This is one of the very few pieces in Kalamkari that was done in monochrome. This is basically a mourning dress for the funeral, but you don't see a lot of Kalamkari which is done in black and white or done in red. This color, basically this color palette.
Yeah. Monochrome Kalamkari exports has been, it's been quite a, this has been quite a find. We couldn't find more images where the idea that chins was accepted in the West was because the color fastness of the chins, the brightness of the chins, right? So this was an interesting find. Same, yeah.
Early 80s.
Yeah. Late 17th, between 17th and 18th. Yeah, we'll finish off. I think about 10 minutes.
This is a very
Yeah, fine.
unusual
Yeah,
combination.
we're almost done.
There are basically temple motifs, South Indian temple motifs in the center of the Gopura, but there is also very European florals here. There is also a bull. There is also a chariot. So it's a mixture of European and very, I would say, temple motifs from South India.
It's a very unusual motive
Very
language.
unusual combination.
It's a fragment piece, yeah. Might have been a hanging, probably, or a bed cover or a hang. What we have currently is only the fragment. So we don't know what the original piece was. Yeah. Base cotton, mostly cotton. Yeah.
This is, I just wanted to put it in the presentation. This is a lady sitting in a chintz dress, European chintz. These are very popular. Unlike Indian style of Kalamkari or unlike the traditional Kalamkari, it is done on very white basis. And the color combination and aesthetics are very subtle, they're very peaceful.
Yeah. If you look at the notes from British, so one of the things which they say that we don't want that sad red. We want the motifs, the background should be white. So that's.
This
another piece, a very beautiful one. I just wanted to put in this presentation. This is a very huge piece. This is just one portion, center portion of this piece, which is done in shades, European shades. It was so pretty, I didn't want to miss it, so I just put it there. This is a shirt piece that was done in Thai market. You can see, I mean, one wouldn't imagine it's done in color clarity, but it is. The center motif is very high, and yeah.
You could see it, yeah. Quite an interesting piece.
It's another dress in chins. European chins was mostly very subtle on white backgrounds, which actual kalamkari is not that subtle. It's got reds, it's got indigos, but whenever it was made for the European market, it was made very, subtle, very more white fabrics, very crystals.
Yeah, so there was bright, the idea of kalam chins being a very bright prints that was always there, but you could see pieces where where that has been toned down for the Western market. What actually got us interested in kalamkari was that we were doing a small project on janamas in kalamkari, and what we realized is the Srikalahasti, the style of the Hindu iconography is largely because of temple patronage network. It's there. It's practicing. One couldn't say it is flourishing because it's any craft. If you say it is flourishing, it depends upon the person, your point of view, right? And also chins has been suddenly been rediscovered by all fashion brands. Good Earth is doing chins. At least even if they are not true to the process, the design vocabulary of chins is adopted by international designers, national designers, and you could see people like Sabyasachi to Good Earth to international designers working on chins. One key vital aspect of kalamkari or the cosmopolitanism was we thought that the forms and products and styles which was exported to the Muslim world, right? So that was our inquiry. What are the forms, the styles of, for example, typically janamas, right? So does that has faded into obscurity, right? So is there a possibility to inquire and to work with artisans to create a small batch collection, looking or an inquiry which results in a small batch collection of this design vocabulary, which has been kind of faded into obscurity, which is kind of I wouldn't say lost, but can we reconnect to that, right? And this is a vital aspect of the cosmopolitan heritage of kalamkari, right? And so that's our inquiry, and and we are doing a project, and probably we're going from here to Machilipatnam tomorrow, and hopefully we should be able to come out with something. So.
You spoke about European trends and kalamkari India.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Europe, yeah.
My question comes after that.
Yeah.
Would it be export of these textiles, or would it be Indian craftsmen working in Europe?
It's largely exports. We're not seeing evidences where because what happened is the British
the same techniques on different
materials. And, yeah.
And orders were especially from Thailand
Yeah.
and other Southeast
Asia.
countries onto the Cosmopolitan post. And in fact, an entire all the ballroom dresses in Thailand at one point in time in the 17th century were only kalamkari.
Yeah. So basically, the Dutch.
Because basically exports of goods, not of technicians.
No, not afraid. Yeah. Yeah.
And orders were placed officially.
Yeah, Dutch East India Company and and primarily the English East India Company also. What they initially did was they used this and exported to Southeast Asia to get spices from them. So that was the idea. But then eventually they found a market in the West. So and to the extent that I think it's in 1721. I guess it was banned. The use of chains was banned in Britain, right? Sorry. Because there was the House of Commons was stormed by the weavers. There was in UK it was wool and linen was primarily used for wall hangings. So now
It was
Yeah.
affecting their industry.
Yeah, it is affecting their industry.
Their industry
Yeah.
and their employment.
Yes.
That's why they banned it.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are the kind of designs that market had?
Yes, sir. I'll give you the mic.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'll give you the mic. Thank you so much. It was a visual feast. You can occupy your Binil. You can occupy the seats. Before going to the next lecture, there are a couple of observations people want to make. First, Mr. Ramesh, is he there? Sir, very briefly. Is Aditya sir?
Namaste. I just have a small idea to share and nothing in person, but few of the things there is a difference. The Kalamkari actual process starts with, like in the present protocol, when you are doing chemical dyes, you have a protocol wherein you do scouring. That is, you take out the dirt and make the fabric or the yarn ready for Kalamkari. Like that, we do have a traditional process of scouring. Once the scouring is done, then we use myrobalan and milk to enhance the mordanting. Mordanting is to attract the dye better. Whatever the color that we are giving it, so it will attract the color better. And once the mordanting is done, then you start applying the required color, whether it is black, red or anything. And coming to red, now everybody uses algerine, which is a chemical. But earlier, there was a plant which was used for algerine. And all the materials that are used, all the colors that are used are plant-based. But if you go to mid-India where Chhattisgarh and all, there they were using stone also for coloring. So stone coloring is different and the plant coloring is different. And once you finish coloring, it is done at different stages. That is, the primary outline color and the filling color is one. Then it is washed, processed. Again, the secondary colors are given. Once the secondary colors are done, then you go for the terrestrial colors. That is the indigo and all that. Once those colors are done, then again you have a color fixing process. But now in the modern times, we don't follow the protocol and we blindly say Kalamkari is not color fast. The natural dyes are not color fast. I myself, I have done more than 160 dyes. I have the shade card with me in natural colors. But what I want to tell people here is, please understand the nuances of the dyeing. Throughout India, we have different types, but every dye, every procedure that they follow is equally good, provided you follow the original protocol. Then coming to the Kalamkari part, the Janamas and all that, they are not rugs. They are basically bedsheet fabric, thick fabric on which they have done the block printing or the hand painting of Kalamkari. And they had a backing cloth wherein it was serving as a rug. So that was the original fabric. And most of these fabrics that are there, most of them are cotton. And somebody is asking, what is the background? What is the original cloth? For that, the clarification is silk fabric, as it is a protein, it disintegrates faster. So cotton is the long-lasting one. We weren't using linen. And most of the fabrics are done on fine voile cloth, muslin cloth, because that is what we were famous for during that time. And the screen where you had the Arabic or Persian that is being put in a small palette, on top of it you had that sun. That was basically, that particular part was masked, and later on they started writing that, whatever that is there. So it is actually the extension of Palampore which was used as a screen. Okay, and in that, in fact, here they don't have it, but the original, they started even putting gold decoration to that. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nothing in person.
Yeah, Jithendra.
Please introduce yourself also. Thank you.
I am Ramanathan Ramesh. I am a craft revivalist, work on reviving handlooms and handicrafts. And to add to this, actually the culture of Kalamkari, he was showing the tent cloth. So I do have one of them, but they were usually used for narrating stories. and from there the extension has come. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Adding to that, he has some rare collection of kalamkari cloths dating back to some 150 years ago. Mr. Ramesh. Yeah, thank you. We're running out of time, so let us not take any questions. Let us move on to our next lecture by Mr. Jithendra Babu. Before inviting him, a few words. Mr. K. Jithendra Babu is an advocate by profession and is currently the director, Deccan Archaeological and Cultural Research Institute, an NGO founded in 2009. The main purpose of this NGO is to promote historical and cultural research related to Deccan. And since 2009, the Institute has pioneered the conservation, protection, and promotion of cultural heritage and monumental grandeur of the Deccan region. Now I request Mr. K. Jithendra Babu to deliver his lecture on spread of cosmopolitan ideas through trade and religion in the Deccan.
Thank you, Subhash, for introducing me. It is always a joy for me to be in an academic environment where the students and distinguished scholars from across the nation unite for the quest of knowledge and understanding. I also thanks for Professor Salma Farooqi for the gracious invitation to speak in this conference on Cosmopolitan Deccan. It is a privilege to do so. Yeah, the Center for Deccan Studies is the premier center for Deccan studies in the state. I was pleasantly surprised when Professor Salma Farooqi suggested that I speak on cosmopolitanism in early Deccan history through the lens of trade and religion. As so few people are interested in such a remote period. Nevertheless, I readily accepted the invitation. I have spent several decades reading about the Deccan and exploring it on the ground. Many questions have arisen in my mind for me, and exploring it on the ground. It is a rare opportunity to take forward my explorations of the Deccan with a knowledgeable audience at the Specialized Center for Deccan Studies. Diagnosis: a figure for great historical significance, first Western philosopher to articulate cosmopolitanism, born in Sinop on the Black Sea coast of modern Turkey. He was expelled from his homeland and eventually found his way to Athens. When asked about his origins, he famously replied, "I am the citizen of the world, cosmopolites." The simple and profound statement laid the foundation of cosmopolitanism as a political theory and moral concept of continue to explore today. In the 18th century, the term cosmopolitan gained a currency in the English language. It is described a person not bound by particular loyalties or cultural prejudices. A cosmopolitan person was free from the basis of local, regional, and national identity and felt at home all over the world. It also denotes an attitude of open-mindedness and impartiality. Over a time, the connotation of cosmopolitanism expanded. Its core principle of remain relevant. It is modern usage of cosmopolitanism arguably encompasses the awareness and experience of people from other cultures, the mixture of culture and varying degrees of cultural assimilation without necessarily abandoning all nations in identity, affiliation required by classical cosmopolitanism. I use cosmopolitanism in the ordinary sense, distinct from any modern theoretical and other sense. It examines whether these impulses can be discerned from the early history of the subcontinent and the Deccan. This is the vast field and it is impossible to explore adequately in available time. Therefore, I propose providing a few snapshots, mainly between the 4th century BCE and the 6th century CE. This period includes the region of the Satavahanas, the Great Deccan dynasty between the late 2nd century BCE and the early 3rd century CE. At the zenith of their power, during the region of Gautamiputra Sri Satakarni, the empire stretched from Rajasthan in the northwest and Andhra in the southwest, and from Gujarat in the west of the Kalinga east. This is also a period when the trade with the Roman was flourished. Greece and India were the first to cultivate two of their most notable contributions to the humanity. One is science and other is philosophy. The intersection trade, several of the venue for the exchange of the ideas, served as a battleground for the competing customs and beliefs. Such diversities foster conflict, comparison, and contemplation and superstition, ultimately giving rise reason. This development of trade and mathematics, foreign commerce and geography, navigation and astronomy, as this religion and philosophy occurred in tandem. Concurrently, the accumulation of wealth facilitated culturally aristocracy where freedom of thought was permitted. The situation was not all that different in the subcontinent. The Jataka tales, in absorbing a collection of 547 stories of the Buddha previous lives, provide enough evidence of the flourishing trade routes centered around the kingdom of Kasi, now it Varanasi, before it was annexed to the Mauryan Empire, probably during the reign of the Chandragupta Maurya in the late 4th century BCE. Furthermore, the Jataka tales have references to land routes and other parts of the subcontinent and ports, making it amply clear that there was a flourishing inland and overseas trade. The wealth generated in the northern kingdoms and subcontinent through the trade is well known and requires no elaboration. In this regard, the tradition surrounding him bear the resemblance to those early Indian philosophers whose activity were situated within the religious context, characterized by asceticism and miraculous feats, reflecting the cosmopolities found in the Indian tradition. The Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist perspectives of time are inclined with the Buddhist interpretation preserved in the Abhidhamma Kosha being the most closely assigned with the encyclopedias with the fundamental principles. The parallel with Greece becomes even more striking when we turn to the story of Indian mathematics. Diane Loeck's painstaking work on what is known as the Propaganda of Fragments has shown the fragmentary text of the 2nd century BCE, a militus elude, a Calendus of the Indians. In the context astrometeorological prediction, Calendus appears to be the Greek version of the Sanskrit name, though it has been suggested that Calendus is using the Greek rather than the Indian system. It is clear that there was a considerable exchange of ideas between Greek and Indian astronomers. The influence of the Greek spirit has profoundly imported individuals, leading to the degree of mental liberation, yet it fell short for fostering philosophical tolerance, educated individualism. The newly established energies recognized the significance of Greek as a vital tool for the diplomacy of literature and science. Aryabhatta, born in 476 CE, flourished in Cosmoputra near the Pataliputra and the present Patna. Then the capital of the Nanda Empire, the Pataliputra was hub of the trade network, allowing a learning from other parts of the world to reach it. Aryabhatta was one of the first mathematicians and astronomers in the golden age of Indian mathematics. His mathematical genius is well known and well studied. He authored Aryabhatiyam, which was the most important treatise in the mathematics even today. He wrote it when he was in only 23 years. And Aryabhatiya Siddhanta, the later work is lost, but we know it only through the works other mathematicians who followed Aryabhatta. An incredible discovery of Aryabhatta in the recognition that pi is an irrational number which is calculated accurately the fourth decimal place in 3.1416. He also estimated the Earth circumferences of 4,967 yojanas, which converts into 24,835 miles, very close to the current accepted value of 24,902 miles. Like many ancient mathematical treatises, Aryabhatiyam is in Sanskrit verse. It is also having a 108 couplets verses. It divided into three sections: Ganita. One is Ganita mathematics, and Kalakriya time calculations, including a planetary models, and Gola, we call it spirit, including the eclipses. They contain stunning advancements in the mathematics, algebra, complex geometry, and astronomy. What is fascinating to note is one of his contributions to trigonometry is used by Pythagorean therein to obtain one of the two methods to calculate his tables of sins. Pythagoras was a revered Greek philosopher who lived from 570 to 490 BCE. He is now known more than a Pythagorean theorian than his philosophy. Pythagoreans did not have obtained any written text, and contemporary scholars do not find any evidence of Pythagorean stated these theories. What is certain, however, is Euclides, a Greek mathematician, was active in the 3rd century BCE, and every schoolboy knows that his name is Euclid, the father of the geometry. His elaborated work, Elements of 13 volumes, scholars have pointed out to the last section of the first volume as containing the earliest known proof of Pythagorean theorem. We must now travel from Pataliputra to Ujjaini in the Malwa Plateau, central India, the modern day of Ujjaini and Madhya Pradesh. Ujjaini was the seat of the imperial power from the 6th century BCE onwards, when it was the capital of the Avanti kingdom. The kingdom was an overland trade routes between the northern and southern India, and to the ports of Barukacha, now modern Baruk, on the western coast. In the 4th century BCE, Chandragupta Maurya annexed Avanti to his dominions. Ujjaini was also a seat of Emperor Ashoka, the last of the great Mauryan rulers of the 2nd century BCE, and became a center for his early Buddhism and Jainism. The control of Ujjaini alternated between the Satavahanas and Western Kshatrapas between the 1st and 2nd century CE. The Greek geographer Ptolemy knows Ujjaini as Ujjaini, the capital of the Western Kshatrapas, about the 319 CE. Chandragupta II, a well-known Vikramaditya, the patron of the Kalidasa, annexed the Ujjaini. One of the famous Sanskrit poet Kalidasa, most important work is the Megha Sandesha. This is a cloud messenger, the lyric poem written in the 4th and 5th century BC, AD, which contains the detailed description of the Ujjaini. Ujjaini was at the crossroads of trade for centers and flourished despite of the wars and conquests it witnessed. Apart from the wealth that resulted, the world of ideas grows stimulated and diverse philosophies of the three great religions of the time, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. So did the arts. Ujjaini was a cosmopolitan city. In this cosmopolitan milieu, Varahamihira, the great philosopher of astronomer and astrologer, flourished in the 6th century CE. The most notable work on mathematical astronomy is Panchasiddhanta, the 5 treatises. In addition to the native astronomy, the compendium contains 2 treatises on Greek, Egyptian, and Roman astronomy, demonstrating the astonishing familiarity with the Western astronomy. Another work of Bros Samhita speaks specifically on the Greek influence. Dr. Kiran, the professor of the Sanskrit College of Benares, who edited this Bros Samhita published in 1865. It's 36 astronomical Greek terms used in this text. Even the Greek terms also there in the Mahabharata. After Varahamihra died, 587 CE, another great Indian mathematician, astronomer, Brahmagupta emerged. He was born in 598 CE in Ballamala, now in modern Bhimalaya in Rajasthan, the capital of the Gurjara Pratiharas. His most famous work on astrology and mathematics was the Brahma Spota Siddhanta, written when he was merely 30 years old. Brahmagupta mathematical accomplishments were many, but his most famous is that assigned to numerical value of to 0. For the first time in the world, he elegantly defined the 0 as the result of the subtracting a number from itself. He revolutionized Islamic mathematics and astronomy when it was translated into Arabic in Baghdad in about 771 CE. The Brahmagupta story is fascinating, but more so when one notes that he moved to Ujjaini later in life. Sunya, in a term in the Sanskrit, the Prakrit and Pali, is extensively used in Sanskrit text dealing with the astronomy, mathematics, and dates to represent the value 0 in the word numerical system. Bhota Sankhya was a system of expressing a number of using words or letters arranged as in the place value notion. Kim Profker, a modern historian of mathematics, has illustrated the system from the 3rd century CE, Sanskrit adaptation of the Greek astronomical text. In his example, words are assigned a numerical value: moon for 1, I for 2, Veda for 4, tooth for 32, and so on. In Sanskrit, the compound moon would be 121, 121, maintaining the decimal place value notation. Even the inscriptions also the Jains used in this Deccan, particularly in Telangana, this numerical system. After the Brahmagupta assigned to the numerical value to 0, the number 1210, 1210 would be represented by moon Sunya. But how did Sunya come to represent 0? The Aryabhata assigned it a numerical value only in the 6th century CE. To answer what question, we must took earlier times and displays other than the mathematics and astronomy. The term Surya refers to that which is empty, the wideness, in that Mahayana Buddhist tradition. Although the concept of encountered occasionally in early Pali texts, in full implication of shunyata, emptiness, very developed in the 2nd century Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna in Moola Madhyamika Karika. The school of philosophy is founded as a Madhyamika middle way. Sometimes we called it Sunyavada, and the doctrine that all is wide. If you see this one work in Sunyata Saptasati, the work was most important work of Acharya Nagarjuna. And we all know that the Niels Bohr, his theory was dedicated to Acharya Nagarjuna because he divided the Paramanu, atomic, basing upon this Sunyata. Actually, what he did in Nagarjuna in the Sunyata Saptasati, he intentionally eliminated our thought process. Every thought we have to eliminate from our mind. We can have abnormal power. That is the basic theory of Acharya Nagarjuna. That theory was applied to the atomic energy by Niels Bohr, and that's why he was dedicated his theory to the Acharya Nagarjuna. In the second century BC, Nagarjuna was born Nagarjuna was born in the Podali, in the village of Guntur district in Andhra Pradesh, and flourished in the 2nd century during the region of Satavahanas, because he wrote one friendly letter to the Acharya Satavahana, Suhru Lekha. This Suhru Lekha is a letter to his friend, interior stating that how to administer the country. It's a excellent political administrative work. He deals with the administration. That work deals also about the manners which he has to lead in the administration. The advice, this is actually friendly, there is a lot of translations in this work all over the country. You can get it to Suhralekha. The king's name is not disclosed in the letter, but scholars believe that it is an Agnesri Shatakarni, the last significant ruler of the Satavahana dynasty. Plofkar also draws attention to the Buddhist monk Vasamitra, writing of the 2nd century CE, who noted the practice of merchants using the counting pits. This was a series of pits which place value assigned to the each pit. Those one token placed in the first pit would have a value of 1. One in the 100 pit would have a value of 100, and one in the 1000 pit would have a value of 1000. One can really recognize this place number system as the forerunner of the decimal point system, and see how the help would count the large numbers easily and very fully. Another established tradition in earlier times needs to be mentioned. This is the Vedic tradition of geometric construction of ritual altars. Plofkar and even Devi Prasad Chattopadhyay also mentioned in his ancient Indian science. The richest evidence of the Sulabha Sutras, code rules of the first millennium BCE prescribed the rules for constructing the fire altars for sacrifices, which indicated a knowledge of geometric fundamentals. Different shapes and sizes were described in conferring different benefits, such as the wealth, sons of the attainment of heaven. Plofkar makes a thought-provoking comment, and perhaps these ritual associations originally inspired the development of this geometric knowledge, or perhaps it was the other way around. The beauty and harmony of the geometric discoveries were sacralized and integrating them into a ritual. The connection between the mathematical and religious thought persisted during the rise of Buddhism and Jainism after 500 BCE. Plofkar asserts that the mathematics supplied a framework for the cosmological and philosophical schemes. The Jain authors, he says, in particular employed an immensity of numbers, even affinity in elaborated and vast models of the universe, and the older Vedic religion, which was evolving into the more recognizable Puranic Hinduism, also required a mathematical techniques for astronomical models for maintaining their calendars. It is also important to be mentioned here is that the Brahmagupta was aided in making this conceptual leap of assigning the numerical value to 0 by the long tradition in India in using the decimal place value system for these calculations. Or the Brahmagupta stimulated these Indians' vibrant tradition, mathematics and astronomy, which was fertilized the knowledge from other cultures, especially Greeks. The Deccan was known for the ancient Dakshinapada. Pada means a way, a path, a road, a route. This meaning is attested in many of the Gupta period inscriptions from about the 3rd century CE onwards, and later inscriptions in the Telugu states. This connotation was also familiar to Buddhists from the Paramottama Jataka, a commentary on the renowned Buddhist scholar Buddhaghosa and the Sutta Nipata, a considerable one of the oldest parts of the Pali canon in the last work. In addition to denoting a path of pada, could also mean that a territory. The Aranya Kanda of Mahabharata briefly mentions the road of the Dakshinapada, and the Ardhashastra of Kautilya also refers to the region of the Dakshinapada. So does the Periplus, which uses a similar term, to the region of Dakshinapada. So does the Periplus, which Dakshinapada, and it is the corruption of Deccan, of the modern Deccan. One interesting thing I want to tell you, there is an ancient trade route from Telangana to North India. Actually, it was mentioned by the Bavari about the story of the Bavari in Sutta Nipata. Bavari was an old ascetic living in the hermitage in the banks of the river Godavari, and he happened to he was a Brahmin, and at the instance of the deity of the village, Bavari sent 16 disciples to the Buddha to know what the course would mean to him. The disciples went to search to the Buddha for the routes they have taken in search of the Buddha. He described in the Sutta Nipata. He started from one village in Khanapur Mandal, Badanakurti. We called it, now also it is there in the Bavarikuru. From there, he investigated, he went to Ujjaini. From there he went to north to meet the Buddha. It is an ancient trade route. It is an ancient trade route. Therefore, we must look in evidence of historical trade and communication routes, especially the ones connecting with the north and the urban trading and religious centers of the Deccan. In short, the communications of a network requires the Mauryan Empire and migration trade as the spread of the Buddhism network rooted to the cosmopolitan impulse of the north reaching to the Deccan can be available, strengthened by the 2nd century BCE and the rise of the Satavahana dynasty, the first great imperial power in the Deccan. I have to tell you the two things. The Amravati and Nagarjunakonda is also a trade route, and because of this Roman and Greek trade, they have flourished in the Gandharian art, the influence of the Gandhara, the Buddhism. We can see in this Nagarjunakonda Amravati sculpture, and this even if you have to see the inscriptions, there are donations of the few people of commercial people who traveled from the abroad. Thank you for the.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was a nice lecture on spread of cosmopolitanism through trade and religion. I'll take very few questions very quickly because we are running out of time. Yeah.
Sir talked about a scholar from BHU who wrote the translation. Can you name that scholar?
Was it BHU or was it Sanskrit Mahavidyalaya? Was it BHU or Sanskrit Mahavidyalaya? They are two separate universities.
Miss Anuradha Reddy, madam, would you like to say something?
Can I just say something from here?
Yeah. సార్ ఇక్కడ ఇది ఒక్కటే ఉంది మీది లేదు ఇక్కడ లేదు సార్
I just wanted to share my map.
come here ma'am.
Since we are here to talk about the Deccan, this topic for today is Deccan. I want to share with the young people who've been talking about kalamkari and textile and design. The one fact that we have missed completely here today is that we are in the center of the Golconda Kingdom, which extended to Machilipatnam on one side and to Surat on the other. These are the trade routes that carried our textiles, that carried our languages, that brought to us, that took from us. And on a trip to Iran, I found them in Isfahan printing what is called kalamkari. And I said, what? Tell me again. And they said, kalamkari. I said, but that's ours. And they said, no, that is ours. So I left it there because it is what we have shared in both directions. They have shown us and talked more about the aspects of Machilipatnam, the textile, the kalamkari. But we found going through the Deccan, through Golconda, through the trade routes, that they have translated miniature forms, costume, culture, and what we have found in Dakhni miniatures, they are still printing in Iran today. That we are speaking the languages that we spoke. Earlier, Vishweshwar Reddy spoke about the Telugu that we speak. In Iran, I was speaking in our Dakhni Urdu, and people were asking me, where did you learn Persian? And I said, never learned.
but you're speaking it. I said, I'm speaking my Urdu Dakhni from Hyderabad, from Golconda, from the Deccan. They were surprised because there are generations who do not know how they have learned certain things. It is we who have given in both directions. In the Telangana, we were storing our pickles, chutneys, pickles, in something called the martaban. Anybody here knows the word martaban?
Ceramic pot.
Ceramic pot. But do you know where it comes to us from? It comes through the trade routes. It's a place in Burma where they were manufactured. And so these are the exchanges that we have made by being in the Deccan here, and that we speak Telugu of 4 different dialects. Vishweshwar referred to the fact that his Telugu was considered unsuitable, or whatever word you want to say. I want to say that I was told in my region, because I didn't come from anywhere, we didn't come. We belong, we share with all of us here today. And when I was told that me Telugu manchigaledu, they cannot say manchigaledu, they say me Telugu bagaledu. So I said, na Telugu manchigaleda. ఏ తెలుగు మంచిగున్నది పలానా జాతి మంచిగున్నది. అయితే నేనన్నా మా పెద్దలు మేము కట్టించిన టెంపుల్స్, ప్యాలెసెస్, ఫోర్ట్స్ ఉన్నాయి, మాది బస్సులు కూడా ఉన్నాయి. మా నిజాం పీరియడ్లో 1934 నుంచి మేము బస్సులు కూడా తయారు చేసినాం, రైల్వే కూడా ఉన్నది, మీకు తెలుగు ఎక్కడ ఉంటే అక్కడ పీకండి అని చెప్పి. So these are the sharings of history that we have done by being the center of the Deccan. The trade routes, the diamond trade, everything that goes to the rest of the world is because of us. The Golconda diamond today is still also very valued. I believe the clarity, the shine, the cut and everything, it's just wonderful. So I'm taking this 1 minute to speak here today, and also that I'm here today in an auto rickshaw, in spite of this cultural event, the Ganesh immersion. As I was coming in my auto, which took 1.5 hours to get here, I composed. I said, disco, dance, drink. I am here for you. Over hill and dale and broken rocks, I am here for you.
I want to tell you one fact. Madam Anurag Reddy belonged to Indur, one small village of Nizamabad district. That village is having a 3,000 years history of exporting the iron to the Iran, Iraq and other countries, even in Greece also. If you see, even now also, if you can see the evidences of that in the village regarding to the iron melting, there are so many evidences surrounding that village, Indur. Indur is a name of exporting. Even the Mughals purchased the iron ore from this village. Even Akbar also given the equal weight of gold for this village iron. There are a lot of documents are there regarding to that export of the iron from that Har village. Thank you.
One of the Arabic words for sword is Mohan, which translates from Binil, made in India.
I think we'll end the session here. Lunch is waiting for all of us. So please come to the guest house for lunch, and then we'll assemble back. Everyone has to come to the guest house for lunch.